we ready? I didn't even ask if you're ready, Tom, so I'm not sure we are.
We're good.
Okay. Good evening, and welcome to the Town Board of the Town of Ossining regular meeting and public hearing for October 9th, 2018. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Shaw,
Present.
Councilmember DeTore,
Present.
Councilmember Feldman,
Present.
Councilmember Wiltshire, Supervisor Leffenberg.
Okay, so you're starting out this evening with a public hearing on an amended version of the draft solar code that we have been reviewing for the last several weeks. I was hoping that our planner, David Stallman, was going to be here, but I'm guessing he got stuck in traffic. So I'm going to ask if Mrs. Donna would be so kind as to take us through the relevant changes that were made based on our last work session to the draft solar code.
Well, I mean, another option, if you would prefer, is maybe go through your announcements and see if he comes.
Oh, sure,
or
okay.
if you-
I could do that.
I mean, it's.
Can we
it's
do
up
that?
to
I know
you.
we're
Yeah.
supposed to always have the public hearing at the top of the meeting. Does it matter since there's nobody here? right
Yeah,
now?
there's nobody here,
All right.
and Mr.
A little
Stallman's
early.
not here, so it
Okay,
may
great.
just be useful.
Let's just right into announcements. If you are joining us live, either in person or through the web, we hope to see you out and about tomorrow, Wednesday, October 10th, for Oregon Donor Enrollment Day. Did you know that New York State is in last place nationwide for percentage of population that is registered or that is a registered organ donor? We all know New York is number one. So tomorrow, Wednesday the 10th, we're partnering with Live on New York to participate in the 4th annual Organ Donor Enrollment Day to make sure we can show the world what it should look like on New York's registry, so we can be number one for that too. We have a lot of work to do to get there. Join me, my fellow elected officials, organ donors, and those whose lives have been saved by organ donation by signing up. If you have already registered, please talk to your family, friends, and coworkers about organ donation. One person signing up could save up to 8 lives. Learn more about the nationwide organ shortage by visiting liveonny.org. We will be holding a press conference in front of Town Village Hall tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. for any of my colleagues who'd like to join us to kick off this effort. And we will be posting volunteers around Ossining to encourage folks to sign up. And I forgot to bring in the list of places, so I'm going to turn to our acting Town Village Clerk, Victoria Caffarelli, to see if you actually remember what the times are. If not, I could pull it up on an email or at least the locations.
The locations are definitely the Ossining Community Center, Ossining Public Library, Sing Sing Correctional Facility, but that's only open to employees.
Right.
Right out front here, in front of the police court facility, I do know that's from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., so
Okay.
that's evening hours.
Right.
Ossining Children's Center, and they were at Ossining High School today.
Right. So today, Ossining High School hosted in advance of tomorrow, because tomorrow is PSAT day, so they're not going to have full attendance. So the National Honor Society worked with us to host today, and they got quite a few students and staff registered, I believe. Mostly students, and students who are 18 years of age and older can register, but you can also register at 16 to go into effect, I believe, on your driver's license when you're 18. I'm pretty sure that you need parental permission at 16, and then at 18 it becomes a final selection if you don't change your mind. So anyway, we're very grateful for all of the partners that we have through our transplant support organization, as well as Live on New York, and all of those other groups that were mentioned are also partnering with us tomorrow. And we're going to have a couple of interesting stories from some organ donors and recipients that we know at the press conference tomorrow as well. So look out for that. On Thursday, October 11th, Senator David Carlucci and Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff will be hosting their annual Ossining Senior Fair at the Community Center at 95 Broadway from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you are a senior or have any seniors in your life, the presentations at this annual event will provide you a wealth of information to navigate the complex world of Medicare, Social Security, and more. There are still some tickets available for the Crossover Yoga Project's annual fundraiser, which will take place at our very own Cedar Lane Art Center. The proceeds from the event and all of the of Crossover's work go towards empowering young women, many of whom have suffered trauma, through yoga, mindfulness, and art. We're so pleased to host this special event, and I hope that you will join me in supporting this worthy effort. Visit www.crossoveryogaproject.org to learn more. On the evening of Sunday, October 14th, come out. Is that right? The 14th? Yep. Come out for a happy hour on the Hudson, benefiting the Ossining Children's Center between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. The Children's Center will host at Factoria at Charles Point in Peekskill. Come for the craft beers, live music, and delicious appetizers, and stay for the amazing view, all while raising funds for the Children's Center's tuition assistance program. Visit OsseningChildrenCenter.org to purchase your tickets. The Ossining Arts Council will be showcasing more than 20 local artists all around Ossining this Saturday, October 13th, between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. as part of their open studio tours. I got to see a preview of the work, and I was joined by Councilwoman Feldman last Friday night at Bethany Arts Community, and I think we can both say without a doubt that we have a very talented bunch of artists in our midst. Plan your self-guided route on the OAC's map, which you can pick up at the Ossining Farmers Market or download at OsseningArtsCouncil.org. And I'm guessing you can find them also at the library and some other places. The Ossining Documentary and Discussion Series returns next week with Resilience, the Biology of Stress and the Science of Hope. Learn how toxic stress hormones born of childhood trauma can have long-lasting effects on the bodies, brains, and even life outcomes of those children as they enter adulthood. This will be an interesting film for sure, as will the panel discussion that follows. The free event begins at 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, October 18th in the Boudars Theater at the Ossining Public Library. Learn more at OsseningDocumentaries.org. The Ossining PBA's Foot Pursuit 5K race is coming up on Saturday, October 20th. The race starts and ends in our very own Cedar Lane Park before heading on to the local roads. Included with the price of registration is a beautiful view of the Hudson. The 3 first finishers could win a 3-month membership to Club Fit and lots of other prizes. So enroll your family today. Find the link to register through the Ossining PBA Facebook page. All proceeds go to benefit a scholarship fund for Ossining children. The evening of October 20th brings you 3, count them, 3 live music options right here in town. Join the Jug Tavern of Sparta for a night of banjo and fiddle music when Tim Rowell and Ambrose Vertibello perform at the Jug. There are 2 seatings, one at 3 p.m. and one at 7 p.m. with a $5 suggested donation at the door. But don't wait to reserve your seats. The Jug is a tiny venue, and this program always sells out, and it is fantastic. I have been to it before, so I strongly suggest you check it out. Email events@jugtavern.org to secure your spot. If you see Tim and Ambrose at the 3 p.m. show, you still have time to see jazz vocalist Alexis Cole at the Westchester Collaborative Theater that very evening. Doors open at 7 p.m. for a 7:30 p.m. show. Visit wctheater.org to learn more. You could also head to the Steamer Firehouse for the soulful tunes of the Vibe Theory, who will be playing that night at 8 p.m. I don't know how you're going to do that all, but they're all fantastic bands. You can get your tickets at OsseningArtsCouncil.org for this one. It's hard to choose because they are all so talented. On Sunday, October 21st, the Humane Society of Westchester at 70 Portman Road in New Rochelle will be hosting a free rabies vaccine clinic for pets belonging to Westchester County residents. Walk-ins are welcome. No appointment is necessary, but please be sure that dogs are leashed and that cats and ferrets are transported in their carriers. This event, I'm sorry, there was a typo and it was just funny. Dogs are leased. No, I think dogs are leashed. And hat cats and ferrets are transported in their carriers. This event goes from 11:30 to 3:30 p.m. Call the Humane Society directly at 914-632-2925 with any questions. Although it seems like Halloween is a long way away, it is only 3 weeks, if you can believe it. I think even a little less. Join us, or maybe it's exactly 3 weeks from tomorrow. Join us on Saturday, October 27th for the 3rd annual Ossining Halloween Kids and Pet Parade on Upper Croton Avenue. The The parade kicks off at 11 a.m. outside the Elks Lodge at 118 Croton Avenue and heads up to the Mike Risco Music School at 44 Croton Avenue. But the fun doesn't stop when the marching does. Stay for music, games, and prizes. Thanks to the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce Uptown Alliance for organizing this fun annual event for our little ones and our furry friends who also love strutting their stuff this time of year. We are also so excited that same weekend to bring you what promises to be a fantastically spooky and creative night here in Ossining. The Forest o' Fears Haunted Hayride will take place on the evenings of Friday, October 26th and Saturday, October 27th at our very own, once again, Cedar Lane Park. It's pretty popular. Our park staff will join Fern Quesada and many, many volunteers to transform our picturesque park into a daunting display of Halloween scenes, as well as a Halloween village for the little ones. Get your tickets now by visiting forestofears.org. Not available to attend? You can also donate to the event using that same website. They hosted a potluck and silent auction this past weekend and earned $300. And with that, we are going to go back to our public hearing and welcome to our planner, David Stallman. We are very happy to have you here and to take us through the substantive revisions that we are going to then open up to the public to the draft of the solar energy code.
Okay, thank you very much. Why don't we first turn to page 9, a little bit out of order, but this is probably the most significant thing. I'm not sure I have the correct copy here.
Would you like one? I'm going to provide you one.
Sure, thanks.
You have it.
Yes. Much. So we talked about having a floating zone for the Tier 3 solar energy systems, and Tier 3 is essentially solar farms. So now we have written into the proposed local law a floating zone created as a legislative action by the town board. And why don't I just sort of read through this? That's probably the best.
I think that's the best thing to do it.
Okay. So G1 states, one of the many important environmental resources of the town is its trees. In the legislative findings of Chapter 183 of this code, the town board has found that trees in the town are potentially in jeopardy of being destroyed or damaged by possible uncontrolled and unregulated cutting, regrading, drainage alteration, construction, or other such acts, and that the trees in the town are a valuable natural resource which can serve to benefit the entire town and surrounding region. Another important resource of the town is its visual environment. That is the reason for the town's creation of an architectural review board. The town board believes that it is essential to balance the preservation and use of competing environmental resources for the benefit of the community and surrounding region. In the interest of maintaining this balance, the town board may entertain the creation of Tier 3 solar energy system floating zones by the legislative amendment of the town's zoning map. The one family, GB, ORB, ORE, and BE zoning districts are eligible hosts for this floating zone. The town board, as a legislative body, has broad discretion in amending the zoning map and shall take the preservation and use of environmental resources, as well as any other factors it deems pertinent, into consideration in determining whether the board will entertain an application for the creation of said floating zone. In evaluating this balance, the town board will, all other things being equal, favor paved parking areas over natural treeless areas, and will favor natural treeless areas over treed areas for the installation of Tier 3 solar energy systems. Protection of the visual environment is another important consideration of the town board. Paragraph number 2. Amendment of the zoning map will follow the same procedure contained in Article 12 of this chapter. And then 3 is just prefaced with subsequent to amendment of the zoning map and goes on with the rest of that. So that's the that's one of about 3 changes. I also drafted a change to the definition of solar energy system, Tier 1.
That's on. That's back.
That's on page 3.
3.
And this would say Tier 1 solar energy systems are roof-mounted solar energy systems and building integrated solar energy systems. Notwithstanding the above, an application for roof-mounted and/or building integrated solar energy systems on more than one building or structure, such as on the roof of carport, shall be processed in accordance with Section 231(3)(f) permitting requirements for Tier 2 solar energy systems, essentially making multiple carports subject to site plan approval from the planning board. Unless the total surface area of all solar panels on the lot exceeds 900 square feet, in which case the application shall be processed in accordance with 231(3)(g) requirements for Tier 3 solar energy systems herein. So that if there were many carports in a huge parking lot, a rather large parking lot, you'd have to get, or the applicant would have to get a conditional use permit as well as site plan approval from the planning board. And then there is, while I was reading through Article 12, which you'll find on page 17, I remembered that town board has sort of found itself in a bind over many years where it has felt obligated to process an application for a zoning text amendment or rezoning when it really doesn't have to. So this makes it clear that the town board will go through this process when it deems it appropriate, entertain the legislative action, the proposed legislative action. And that's pretty much it for the changes. I did a little bit of research with regard to radiant heat energy. Talked to a couple of folks who are very familiar with solar energy systems and installation of solar energy systems, and they said there's very little written about it, and this person did not think that it was a real issue. And then
Which issue? I missed
Radiant heat.
Radiant heat. Okay.
right, the solar panels absorb the heat, don't really reflect the heat. So there's no problem with radiant heat affecting the ecology or environment.
Okay.
And then I also spoke with a couple individuals about the minimum size of commercial solar energy systems, solar farms.
Right.
And these individuals said that you needed about 8 to 10 acres of arrays on a piece of property that would likely be 20 to 25 acres in size, or thereabouts in terms of the buffers that are required, depending upon how large the buffers are required.
Okay. So, in other words, anything less than 20 to 25 acres
You would
you're
need,
saying
Makes sense.
wouldn't make fiscal sense for somebody who's
well, you would
developing.
need, you would need probably the better measurement is 8 to 10 acres of arrays.
Got it.
And then depending upon, you'd have a 100-foot buffer around the outside of that, so I could figure out what that would be. But you're talking in excess of, probably on the order of 15 to 20 acres at least.
Okay.
Did you find anything else about the height?
No, I wasn't able to do that, but I'll continue to look and try to find out about that.
That's my last question.
So this is, thank you. Are there any other comments? No, okay. In that
This
case,
is greatly improved in my,
this is
in my view.
now open to the public for any comments from the public about this revision. Hearing none? Can I ask the board if they want to make any comments or not?
Of course.
Okay, so Councilwoman Feldman, you have made such comments already.
I have made such comments already. I think this is a big improvement. I like the oversight that the board gets and, the preference of the already paved over. So I like the changes so far. I really the last thing I really want to look at is the height and the visual impact.
Right, and that still is in our,
Yeah,
would be
we're still looking
in
at that.
discretion for the architectural review board also that send it. I mean, be in our discretion to determine if wherever a solar farm wanted to go, we would establish a floating zone to allow it to go there, correct? I mean, just to clarify what a floating zone actually means.
That would be the first step, yes.
Right.
Right.
So if somebody applies and says, we want to put a solar farm here, then they'd come to the town board, say, we want to put a solar farm here, and we would have a range of options to make a determination. Either we could say, no, we're not considering that space at all, don't even talk to us, or we could say, yes, but we'd like to refer you to the planning board, or we would like you to go through some kind of environmental review
It would be the same process as someone coming in for a zoning text amendment or a zoning map change. This would actually be a zoning map change. So it's the same process that the town has used for many, many decades
They go
now
through secret.
in terms of, involving seeker. There's a project that you have pending right now, which would require a zoning text amendment to create a new zone and a zoning map change to apply that new zone. Same process that you've been going through.
Which is something that, as David said, is within the total discretion of the town board, whether you want to take on. But he did include certain criteria and considerations that the town board would look at, and trees being one of them, as that's been a pretty well-discussed topic during this public hearing so far, as something that you would look at in making that consideration. And the language that David included on page 17, it clarifies what the town board's rights are, but it doesn't really change or establish anything that doesn't already exist. It just makes it clearer in the code for people reviewing it to see what they may want to do.
It's clearer. I like it. It looks good.
Okay. Thank you
you,
very
Dan.
much. All right.
Pleasure.
So with that,
I
we are
would-
going to,
I would recommend adjourning because there were some changes made that were made relatively recently.
Yeah.
And just to make sure that the public does have an opportunity to weigh in on it, but because it does change the process from what was previously being considered, there are also some administrative steps that we'll have to take. And so the board could continue it in 2 weeks if you wanted to do what you did with the other local laws and push it out 4 weeks to what I believe is November 13th, or is that Election Day?
no, November 5th is election day.
November 12th is Veterans Day, so we're good, November 13th?
still good on the 13th,
Okay, sorry. So that would be your 2 legislative sessions from now.
Okay.
And then if you wanted to have, I don't know, if comments came in and you wanted to have a work session in the interim, we could do that, or just wait and see what happens at the next public hearing. So it's up to you.
Anybody want to weigh in on this? I mean, we could certainly have it open for the next, when we have when we're looking at all the
Okay,
other,
so that would be the 23rd.
23rd. Okay. I have a motion to adjourn this public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, so, moving right along, we are going to go into liaison reports. Are there any?
One.
Okay.
The Briarcliff Manor Fire Department will be having their annual inspection this Saturday. Oh, October 20th.
October 20th.
Thank you. October 20th, 7 p.m. You can come on down and see all the fancy fire trucks and ambulances and the firemen looking their best. So the whole public, everybody can come out and see all their fine stuff.
Right. I don't know if our council members are going to be able to attend. Yes. So that's fantastic. Thank you. Did you RSVP directly, or did you
Sure.
do that for you? Okay, we can take care of that for you. Right.
I did mention it to a couple of them, but I don't know that I
Fantastic.
mentioned it to the proper one.
And you missed the public hearing, but that's okay. Okay. So next up, there's no other liaison reports. Our next up was our departmental reports from Paul Frioli, who has not yet arrived, and perchance he didn't remember that we're starting a little bit early this evening. So we shall postpone that in this meeting and move on to board resolutions.
Okay.
All right.
So we start with approval of minutes, regular meeting. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining hereby approves the September 25th, 2018 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Next up, approval of voucher detail report. Resolved that the town board hereby approves the voucher detail report dated October 9th, 2018, in the amount of $380,117.82.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Okay. CDBG application 2019 to 2021 cycle bus for senior nutrition program revised. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining endorses the community development block grant CDBG application entitled bus for senior nutrition program with a total project cost of $230,000, $75,000 requested from the CDBG program, and $155,000 provided as a local match, comprised of a cash contribution of $75,000 from the town of Austining and $80,000 from the NYSERDA VIP incentive voucher program.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so earlier in the year, we sent in applications for 4 community development block grants, and those are federal grants that are administered by Westchester County. The county had asked us to additionally endorse these grants, so tonight we are asking the town board to endorse the application for a bus, the senior nutrition program, electric bus, with a total project cost of $230,000, $75,000 from the program, $155,000 provided as a local match, which is a cash contribution of the $75,000 from the town of Austining and $80,000 from the NYSERDA VIP incentive voucher, as you heard, resolution. Are there any questions? Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Engle Park Greenway Grant. Whereas the town of Austining is applying to the Hudson River Valley Greenway for a grant under the Hudson River Valley Greenway Grant Program for a project entitled Master Park Plan for Lewis Engle Waterfront Park to be located in the town of Austining, and whereas the grant application requires the applicant municipality to obtain the approval/endorsement of the governing body of the municipality or municipalities in which the project will be located. Now therefore be it resolved that the governing board of the town of Austining hereby does approve and endorse the application for a grant under the Hudson River Valley Greenway Grant Program for a project known as Master Park Plan for Lewis Engle Waterfront Park and located within this community.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Hey, I want to have, wait a second, I wanted to discuss this before I called for the motion. So I'm just, sorry, let me just go back. I just wanted to let you know that we're getting ready to submit a grant application for another project that we did apply for CDBG grant funds for. We're hoping to make many improvements to Lewis Engle Park, including an improved public beach area, which is what we applied for the CDBG funds, or an accessible playground, an area for adults to work out, improved and covered stage, and a redesigned and resituated comfort station, which might also include a vending area potentially. We know that to do so, we need to have a plan in place. Since we are also right on the Hudson River, we must be cognizant of sea level rise as well as climate change, which can impact our shoreline and our assets. With the water treatment plant right there at Sing Sing at one end, a planned major tourist destination of the Sing Sing Prison Museum set to break ground in a couple of years, the historic Austining Boat and Canoe Club in the middle, an extension dock planned for the Village Pier, a restaurant and event space at the north end of the park, and apartments. There are many pieces of the puzzle that need to be taken into account. For that reason, we are hoping to apply for this Hudson River Valley Greenway grant to develop a master park plan for Lewis Engle Waterfront Park. And what that would involve would be a lot of stakeholder input to get to a point that we felt was a good one. So hopefully we will obtain grant funds to help us with that, and we can for waterfront. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay, resolution authorizing supervisor to execute electric service agreement with Sustainable Westchester and Constellation New Energy, Inc. for Community Choice Aggregation Program. Whereas the town board previously adopted a local law authorizing the town to participate in a community choice aggregation pilot program, which is intended to provide residential and small non-residential consumers with the ability to lower their overall energy costs, and the benefits of the CCA program include price stability for a fixed contract term, lower prices, more favorable favorable contract terms and the ability to design a program that reflects local preferences and needs, including a preference for cleaner power sources. And whereas in 2016, the town supervisor executed a memorandum of understanding with Sustainable Westchester, a not-for-profit organization comprised of over 40 municipalities in Westchester County, including the town, for Sustainable Westchester to serve as program manager for the CCA program. And whereas in 2016, the town supervisor executed an electric service agreement with Con Edison Solutions to provide power supply to Ossining residents in accordance with the CCA program. And whereas for municipalities in the territory served by Con Edison, including the town, the CCA pilot program will conclude on December 31st, 2018. And whereas the town board desires to continue to participate in the CCA program, recognizing the substantial benefits it has to the town and its constituents to promote and pursue clean energy sources. And whereas at its August 7th, 2018 special meeting, the town board authorized the supervisor to execute a new memorandum of understanding with Sustainable Westchester for Sustainable Westchester to serve as the program manager for CCA program and to solicit bids and perform such other services as may be reasonably required to facilitate the implementation of the CCA program. And whereas Sustainable Westchester sought bids from electric service suppliers for residential and small commercial properties, and on October 5th, 2018, the bids were open and Constellation New Energy, Inc. was the winning bidder to provide services for 24 months with the possibility of a 6-month extension with standard product residential and commercial rates of $0.07709 per kilowatt hour and 100% renewable clean power product residential and commercial rates of $0.0799959 per kilowatt hour. And whereas Sustainable Westchester has determined this bid to be compliant with the requirements for the CCA program, and the town board desires to enter into an agreement with Constellation to provide the services at the proposed rates. And whereas when the town board approved the agreement with Con Edison in 2016, it selected the 100% renewable energy supply as a default rate for the town's residents, recognizing that a main objective to participating in the CCA program is to promote and pursue clean energy sources, and given that, one, the 100% renewable energy supply is comparable to the rate provided by Con Edison for residential consumers and substantially lower than the Con Edison rate for commercial consumers. Two, the town board understands from representatives of Sustainable Westchester that the annual difference between the 100% renewable energy supply rate and basic service supply rate will be relatively small, approximately less than $30 per year for residents. And three, any electricity user within the town participating in the CCA program will be able to opt out of the default 100% renewable clean power product and choose the standard product. And now, therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the electric service agreement with Constellation and Sustainable Westchester, subject to approval of council to the town as to form, and be it further resolved, the town board designates the 100% renewable clean power product as the town's default rate for the CCA program.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So, we're very excited that we were able to participate in the opening of the bids for the next round of electricity supply for Westchester Power through Sustainable Westchester, and that they have administered our Community Choice Aggregation Program over the last 2+ years. As you heard, the bids were open on October 5th, 2018, and Constellation New Energy was the winning bidder, with an offer to provide services for 24 months with the possibility of a 6-month extension, and the rates 7.71 cents per kilowatt hour for the standard and 7.99 cents per kilowatt hour for the 100% renewable. I'm hoping the board will once again see fit to opt for the 100% renewable, which is extremely competitive, is the same for residential and commercial, and beat the 8.26 cents threshold by a lot. It's actually lower than the current rates that are being provided right now through Constellation also. And it's really pretty exciting, and I believe Constellation's also planning to provide marketing support for Westchester Power. So there's continues to be an availability to opt out, just as you could do with Con Ed if Con Ed was your current supplier, or you could opt for another ESCO, whatever you like. But we believe that by partnering with other municipalities and going out to bid and getting this very competitive rate, and pushing the envelope for demand for sustainable electricity supply is a good thing for all of us. That said, are there any discussion or any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Awesome.
Resolution authorizing town to participate in coalition for purpose of submitting comments to IRS on draft regulations regarding charitable contributions. Whereas in response to the Federal Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, TCJA, the state of New York has enacted legislation as part of its fiscal year 2019 budget that authorizes counties, local governments, and school districts to establish a charitable gifts reserve fund and to authorize a real property tax credit of up to 95% of the amount of a property owner's monetary contributions to an established charitable reserve fund under the associated credit year. And whereas on August 23, 2018, the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, issued proposed regulations providing rules on the availability of federal charitable contribution deductions when the taxpayer receives or expects to receive a corresponding state or local tax credit. And whereas the proposed regulations impair the incentives for individual taxpayers to make contributions to these charitable reserve funds, and whereas state, county, and local entities, including the town, have expressed confusion, doubt, and skepticism on the draft regulations and have raised questions as to whether they constitute an arbitrary and capricious interpretation of federal tax law, and whereas the IRS has invited the public to submit comments on the proposed regulations no later than October 11th, 2018, and whereas State Assemblywoman Amy Paulin's office has been working with Baker and McKenzie LLP to prepare comments on the draft regulations for submission during the public comment period on behalf of an ad hoc coalition of like-minded state, county, municipality, or school district agencies or organizations. And now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the town to be a part of the above-referenced ad hoc coalition solely for the purpose of submitting comments on the draft regulations by October 11th, 2018, as prepared by Baker and McKenzie LLP, subject to approval by council to the town as to form. And be it further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the one-time payment of $1,000 towards the administrative expenses of the ad hoc coalition in preparing the comments on the draft regulations, and be it further resolved, this resolution does not bind the town to any further involvement or action with respect to the ad hoc coalition or authorize any additional financial contributions to the ad hoc coalition, which further involvement, actions, and/or payments must be separately approved by the town board on a case-by-case basis.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So, as we have been discussing, there are questions about the IRS's regulations that they issued regarding the charitable contributions or charitable trust that the state of New York, as one state, legislated. And we have many taxpayers who are interested in finding a way to continue to deduct their property taxes from their, as a standard deduction or an itemized deduction on their income taxes. Just today, I had somebody come in and say, "Why aren't you doing more?" This is a way for us to continue to participate in any comments that will be made to the IRS regarding their recent regulations. And I do have a list of some of the organizations and municipalities that have already agreed to participate, which includes New York Conference of Mayors, New York State Association of Counties, New York State Council of School Superintendents, New York State School Boards Association, New York State School Business Officials, Westchester County, the City of White Plains, Town of Bedford, Town of Lewisboro, Town of Mamaroneck, Town of Newcastle, Town of North Salem, Town of Pelham, Town of Rye, Village of Upper Brookville, Katona-Lewisboro School District, New Rochelle School District, Pleasantville School District, Pecanico Hills Central School District, and Scarsdale School District. And then others, including us, have it scheduled for a resolution to vote for this week. And as I understand it, all of these groups have agreed to contribute $1,000 to the cause. Questions? Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay.
Fantastic. So
We'll keep going. Okay.
now,
Do you want to go through those last two things, or?
okay, sure. Why not?
Okay. Correspondence received and filed. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Austining hereby accepts the following meeting minutes. Town Planning Board meeting dated September 5th, 2018.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
And I think we're going to have a little bit of an update as to something that happened at that planning board a couple of minutes when we hear from Paul Frioli. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay, monthly reports. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Austining hereby accepts the following reports for the month of September 2018. Town Supervisor's Office, Town Clerk's Office, Town Building Department, Town Tax Receiver's Office, GE Helicopter, and Dale Cemetery.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, before we go back to our report from our town engineer, Paul Frioli, I just wanted to find out by a show of hands, because some people did stroll in late and we started kind of early, if anybody had planned to make comments at the public hearing on the solar code. Okay, seeing no hands, I will now ask that our very capable and wonderful Paul Frioli, who is the village engineer and also acts through an IMA as our town engineer, would come up to discuss a couple of projects that he has been helping us out with. Specifically, he's been working with Michael O'Connor in the Highway Department, as well as Dolph Rotfeld, our engineering consulting firm, on McCarthy Drive. And also, we were hoping that we could get a little bit of an update on the where the water treatment plant project is, because we know that you have been in front of the planning board, and that has been going smoothly. So we'd like to just get a little bit of an update. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Supervisor, for the introduction and the kind words. Good evening, Town Board. I will start with the latter. I will discuss the village's planning board application for our new potable water treatment plant that we're constructing in Crotonville, which is a village property in the town. We have been in front of the town's planning board successfully, and with some of the players here, I would thank them with your land use council and with your planner present this evening. They have helped us through that process, including the submission of a grant for this plant that will benefit everybody. To believe the administrator is the DEC for up to $15 million. The details of that and the details of the facility that we're constructing are found on the town's YouTube channel with their planning board meetings. It's a wonderful project that we're undertaking. It's going to benefit village and town residents as well, because we are purveyors for water to both entities, and I encourage the folks out there to watch the video of the planning board meetings. We were present at the last 3 meetings, I believe, and we went to a total of 4 meetings. The last 2 steps, and again, Mr. Stallman can correct me if I misspeak, but the last 2 steps is this month we will be going to the town zoning board for a very small zoning variance, which we need to procure prior to going back to the planning board for the final site plan approval on our project. At that point, the schedule really runs parallel to the construction document completion, which the village is looking to undertake, or have completed rather, the next couple of months, and we're going to bid it this winter. And all things going well, we look forward to breaking ground probably in the spring. Something that is important to point out to town residents of the Crotonville area, because of some environmental concerns with some of the nature that inhabits the trees in the areas that we will be clearing. We're going to be doing some clearing prior to some environmentally sensitive areas in advance of the construction. So we're going to be doing that separate contract, and that may be taking place as early as this November and December in the area of the site, which is the area of the Indian Brook Water Filtration Plant, just next to Crotonville there in the town. So thanks for allowing me to talk about that, and we'll keep your office posted accordingly. The main reason we're here this evening is to discuss a project that we were last in front of you all with, which is the rehabilitation and reconstruction of McCarthy Drive. Most of you know, but for those that don't, McCarthy Drive is more or less a dead end off of Stormytown Road in the town, right across from the nursing home there. It was a road that the town, I don't have the date, but has recently formally and legally took over as their own. So the town board is committed to commence with a rehabilitation project, and the first step of that is what we did this year, which is secure the services of a consulting engineer to produce design documents. With me this evening is James Natarelli from Dolph Rotfeld Engineering, PC. He is the project manager for this project and has been coordinating everything to date. I'm not going to steal too much of his fire, but I do want to give a little intro by way of telling him what Dolph Rotfeld and Mr. Natarelli were charged with by the town board, and that was the rehabilitation of McCarthy Drive to bring it up to a road standard acceptable to the highway superintendent, Michael G. O'Connor, and the town board. So they are doing that, and in conjunction with that, they're also going to do, I don't even call them drainage improvements because there's no real formal drainage there now. So they're going to do a drainage, stormwater collection and treatment system on that road. And I'll let you get into the details, James. They're also going to do utility coordination with the utility that is in the ground there now, including sewer and water. And the potable water facet of this project is going to be funded by the Village of Ossining as per the IMA. And he'll get into a little bit of those details. And if there's anything I'm forgetting or if there's any questions after James does his presentation on the boards where I'm going to play easel, we can take them at that time. Actually, I had sent a text before I spoke because I wanted to get some details on the grant, and the reason I wanted to talk about the grant because it really was the town planning board was of great assistance in securing this grant because there's some things that had to be expedited in that process. So again, thank you to Mr. Stolman for doing that. The grant we're applying for is to the Environmental Facilities Corp in the amount of $14.5 million as part of their Green Infrastructure Grant Program and their Drinking Water Grant Program.
And just to clarify, that's not for McCarthy. That's
Correct.
for the
That's
water
for the
treatment
water
plant.
Yes, that's for
Okay,
the water
just 'cause you
treatment
bounced
plant.
back. Okay, just wanted to make
No,
sure that
if
everybody knew
we
that.
need
We
that
didn't
much
get
money
any-
for McCarthy,
Yeah,
then
we
we're
don't have
going to
that
have
money
to
for
send James
McCarthy.
back to the drawing board.
Yeah, not for
Yeah.
right. Okay.
James.
Okay, before we get into that, just quickly, did anybody have any questions about the water treatment plant? No? Okay, fantastic, okay.
Good evening. I'm James Natarelli from Dolph Rotfeld Engineering. Thank you to Mr. Frioli for the nice introduction. And now, as you mentioned, he'll be playing easel for me, or maybe we can use this chair. So what we've done right here, what you see on these plans, and I know that maybe
We don't
some of
see.
you up in the dais can't
Can we
really
hold,
see
like-
the details of it,
Yeah.
but what we're showing is kind of a conceptual layout of what the road is going to look like. The existing roadway width right now is a substandard 22 to 24 feet wide. It varies. There's no curb. So we'd like to bring that up to current standards. If we were to go with typical standards, the road may end up being about 30 feet wide. But we're trying to respect some of the wishes of the community that they want to protect the character of the roadway width. So we're going to do a 26-foot wide standard width all the way down. If you could see some of these, the shaded would be the proposed roadway. The heavy dotted, the dashed line is the existing roadway width. So it makes some snaking motions as it goes down the alignment of the roadway, and we're going to try to straighten that out, and as engineers love to do. So let's see, what was that, sheet one? Okay, I'm sorry, let's go back to this. So it starts at Stormytown Road. This is heading north. There's a slight incline. Turn it over. There's a very small high point, somewhere around this 1,000-foot mark. And that's important because everything up to that point will drain southwards. So we'll be incorporating drainage measures that will collect the stormwater and send it down towards Stormytown Road. And then from there, it'll be piped and connected into the town system further down. That's there. This is where it starts to pitch in the opposite direction to the north. If you're familiar with McCarthy Drive, this is also the location where it starts to make a turn, and kind of a 90-degree turn, and starts to head down towards the end of the right-of-way. At the end of the right-of-way, we're proposing, this is a placeholder for now, something that we call a hammerhead. That's the configuration that you see here, and that's to provide an area for people to turn around at the end of the roadway. Right now, area, the current asphalt ends, and it's just dirt and gravel. So we'll be paving that all the way down to the private driveway that's at the end. And so in this area, we'll be incorporating drainage as well. It'll be coming this way towards the north. Once it gets to the hammerhead, there's an existing easement that heads down to Incognito Lane. From there, we're proposing to pipe the stormwater down Incognito Lane through the right-of-way, and I'm not I didn't bring that plan that hasn't been laid out yet, but that'll just connect to the Incognito Lane stormwater system. And that's the extent of the drainage. As far as the water main replacement goes, in order to formulate any sort of cost estimate, we really needed to know what's underneath the roadway. So we just got some borings done. They were done this past Thursday. I expect to have the boring logs tomorrow. And from that, the reason we wanted to get that done is we really want to know if there was any rock up there. We'd seen some rock outcroppings, and if there's rock, that increased the cost of work, of trenching. Turned out we did not hit any rock. That was the initial indication from the boring contractor. So with those boring logs, we'll start to piece together a cost estimate, and that's really the next step. We also asked the boring contractor to record the roadway width, the current roadway width. And that's important because with the implementation of curbing, because the roadway right now sits at the same elevation as the surrounding properties, if we were to incorporate a 6-inch standard height curb, the roadway would have to be dropped a little bit. We really wanted to know what was underneath that asphalt, if there's anything that could be reused as a roadway subbase. So that'll all show up in the boring reports as well, and we can incorporate that into the design. What am I missing? Missing anything? So that's where we are. So it's like the next step is just doing the cost estimate and fine-tuning the alignment of the roadway. We'll start to design the drainage. We'll have to find kind of where to fit that in between. Everything up there is underground. All the utilities are underground. It's the water, the sewer, all the electric TV lines, they're all underground, so we need to find a location where that drainage is going to go. So those are some of the next things that we'll be dealing with. The design is scheduled to be done by the end of this calendar year, with the hopes that come spring we'll be able to put it out to bid for a public bid and hopefully begin construction in the spring.
Okay. I have a couple of questions, yeah.
Let me just add one thing before we go into questions. So his last comment there about the design, that is, I know we're a little behind where we thought we'd be at this point, but we still will have an estimate for the town's consideration as you do your budget for your capital borrow next year. You can ponder the anticipated borrow to do this project.
Okay.
And the comment about the curbing and the road elevation and the road width and such, again, we took the comments at the public meeting and some of the meetings we had in the field, and we really want the residents to be sure that we're making as little increase to the width as possible while still incorporating the design. We're trying to keep the character of the dead end. That was important. That was something that we charged the engineer with after the town board had met with the residents and we had our site meetings. And the installation and curb, which is really part and parcel with an appropriate stormwater system that we're going to install, is going to be done with all the care in the world for everybody's existing driveway thresholds and any landscape details or any other details that they have in their yard that technically sit within the existing right-of-way. So we're going to be very sympathetic and understanding of what is there now and do our best to work around what we can. Or if we cannot, we will do some type of restoration or remediation efforts so at the end of the day, everybody is happy.
Great. That was one of my questions. And the other one was, if in fact, there does seem to be enough interest and Con Ed says, yeah, we want to put a gas line down that road, how does that impact what you're doing? And I know that usually they would pay for that. I'm sure that they would be interested in teaming up with us to do something if we're planning to dig up the road anyway. So can you just talk about that?
Yeah, I'm still not sure we have a final answer on whether they're going to promote the installation if they think they have the necessary need on the road. But if they do, as we've done in the past with projects, Con Ed will come in. We will incorporate installation of a gas line within the existing road. We do not believe that what we plan on putting in for stormwater and the potable water rehabilitation will negatively impact where we would anticipate running a gas line for gas service for the residents. So we could always add it into the drawings. And yes, Con Ed does make a contribution to the contract for that component if the nature of the work is for new services for residents.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, you mentioned, well, there was no drainage, so now there's going to be drainage. So could you just talk about that a little bit? Like, which way is the water going now and why? And I mean, I could guess just based on comments about where the high point is and knowing comments from our constituents, who've live at Incognito or White Birch, and you could just talk about that a little bit and how is this going to potentially, take care of some of those issues?
I'll let James talk about the details, but I do want to introduce it by saying that essentially what people experience right now is the result during heavy rainstorms, sheet flow and water that's find its way through, years of storms with no real formal collection system in place. So it has caused flooding in some areas and washout in areas. And if you've been there lately, you could see the end of McCarthy Drive is really not even a road. It's gravel, and you could see all the rat holing and the washouts that highway is forced to maintain annually at the end of that road. And the residents just at the end of Incognito, they're experiencing some of that too during heavy rains. So again, what the engineer was charged with was a collection system that not only collects, but also, where at all possible, underneath the roadway, put in detention systems within the system. This is something on a much larger scale, but something very similar to what the town did on Cedar Lane, where they collected the water on Cedar Lane prior to it getting discharged. I can't think of the two residents' houses there, but there was two houses that were really suffering the wrath because of a culmination of water at this one point was just discharging as fast as it was raining. So what is underneath Town Road Cedar Lane right now is a system of serpentine tanks which collect that storm water when it does hit with a rush, and it basically allows a metered amount to go out, which is a controlled amount from that system. And we haven't experienced flooding in that area since that system went in place. And that's kind of the same concept we anticipate here. Collecting, retaining it for a fixed period, and then discharge it to where it's going now, which is the stormwater system downstream, if you will. So, Jane.
Wouldn't a collection system on McCarthy help the Cedar Lane situation also, as that's right above it?
Yes,
Very likely,
yeah. That's exactly right. I don't know if there's much that I can add to what Mr. Fraley was describing there. As you correctly noted, the high point sheds the water in opposite directions. There are several houses that I noticed have leader drains, I believe go to their driveways, and the driveways pitch out to the roadway. So we wouldn't just be collecting the water that falls on the roadway itself, but potentially some of the runoff from the houses as well. So that could really pull the water off the surface and channel it in a way where it's not going to cause a problem. But yeah, the end of McCarthy, where it turns into gravel, is just have been completely rutted out from the rains there. And where it goes from there, I can only imagine based on the topography that I see. But it seems to go in the direction of Knollwood or off to Incognito, and finds its way down there. So by adding a curb and catch basins at the bottom of that existing gravel area. That should really alleviate a lot of the problems that you're seeing downstream.
I just had a comment. I appreciate that you were listening to the residents. I see a lot of improvements based on the comments that we've heard. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
That's it for that discussion, unless anybody has any other questions.
So in summary, we anticipate bringing construction documents and maybe, something along the lines of an 80% document for review, so you can give it your final blessing prior to taking it to construction document.
Okay, and as you said, get some cost estimates sooner
Yep.
rather than
Yeah,
later,
that's it,
right?
yeah.
Now that we're moving along. Okay, and I guess we might think about having this also at a town hall meeting, maybe when we can have opportunity to take a look at it, or put it up, make it easy for people to find someplace up on our website. That's another alternative.
I think you'll see something more appropriate for posting now that Mr. Natarelli has the boring data.
Okay.
The concept is now going to be reduced to elevations, et cetera, that are really going to start to make sense and allow us to hone in on the cost and the design. So once we start getting that stuff together over the next couple of months, I'll be forwarding it down to the supervisor's office and figure out how we're going to advise as to where we are.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time and for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh. Oh, yeah, visitor, right. So we have visitor recognition on any subject whatsoever. Is there anybody here who'd like to talk to us about any subject? If please come on up. You have 3 minutes. Just say your name and where you live or what you're here about, and
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Bill Bigelow, and
Karen Pocock.
we live on Tavano Drive in the town. And I think you may have heard some conversation recently that the neighborhood has been considering having our neighborhood listed by the National Trust for Historic Places, and it would be considered a National Trust Historic Neighborhood due to its architecture of late mid-century architecture that has been consistently maintained. And that's now, I think, parts of it over 50 years old and is still in almost original condition and beautifully maintained. We're all very proud of it, and we didn't want you to find out by something coming in the mail. We wanted to be able to tell you that we've authorized the state to, this past week, to go ahead and pursue that. They'll make an application towards the end of the year to the National Historic Trust, and then we'll be hearing something most likely in the spring. But we're very proud of our neighborhood and wanted you to be aware that we're pursuing this.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you for that update. Very much appreciative of you letting us know. We did hear some buzz about it. We were a little concerned more for you landowners and property owners than we were for the town. It probably puts us into a position where we have to then consider putting in place a landmark preservation board.
They're separate things. Being listed on the state or national historic register is a different issue, and I actually think you guys do have Landmarks Preservation Board chapter in your code, but I don't think anything was ever pursued about it.
Right.
So, the town board can undertake whatever type of legislation it may or may not want to, but I don't know that what they're doing necessarily requires that to be.
It doesn't. It does not require that, and there is no. They don't impose any requirements on the community. They just acknowledge that it is, in fact, a historic location, and there aren't any rules that we've been told we have to follow.
I think
Regards to
there's more to
that.
do if you got grant funding with respect to
Right.
that status, then I think there would be some restrictions on properties. Don't quote me on that, but that's just my understanding. But yeah, I think it's two different paths, and
Okay.
whether they did this or not, the town board is within its right to adopt land use regulations as it deems.
Anyway, it's exciting that we have this little gem, I think, in the town, and that you're looking to highlight it. So thank you for that. And I think that we're all going to do our best to see what the next steps are as
Great.
far as you're concerned. So thanks for that.
And we'll be back to let you know how it's proceeding.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. So, have a couple more things that I wanted to mention. And then adjourn. So, wanted to just also mention, I neglected to mention that last week we completed, almost completed, the installation of our new spray pad at our spray park at Engle Park. So it's looking fantastic. If you get a chance and you're wandering around and you want to go for a nice walk out to the point over there, take a look. It's very bright and cheery and soft. So it's a lot safer. It's also got texture in it, so it's slip resistant, and it looks great. And it has fish, and it has fish that look like they might have come from the Hudson River. I'm not sure about the stars that look like starfish, but definitely some of the little fish. The folks who designed it did take a look at where we were and came up with a design that they thought was in keeping with the shore of the Hudson River. So we're excited about that. And the other thing that I did want to just mention is I think we have a town hall meeting next week. We may be hearing a little bit more detail from Westchester Power / Sustainable Westchester about, again, some more details about the new recently accepted bid and what it entails and how it's going to affect your electricity bills. And that's it. Is there anything else that we had on for our town hall for next week? Okay. And we'll be at the Austin Public Library. I just wanted to mention that we lost two very involved members of our community this past week. George Kane, who graduated Austin High School in 1949, was a real estate owner, was a U.S. Army Sergeant, 1951 to 54, a longtime member of American Legion, a longtime member of the Elks, a former village trustee, and his wife Rosemary and sons Greg and Michael are also very big parts of our community. And I think the wake just ended at Leach and Thomas. It was from 4 to 8 today. Also, Michael Wizard Scarduzio Sr., who's almost 50-year member of Austin Hose Company, Commodore of Westerly Yacht Club, longtime member of Austin Boat and Canoe Club, owned Intercounty Supply in Bedford, and has children Michael Jr., Anthony, Matthew, are up and coming, our recent.
Michael's are up and coming.
You're right, Michael's are up and coming, but we have
Fire chief.
Fire chief, and we have Matt, who was our fire chief, as well as his daughter Maria and stepkids Stephanie and Kathy Unger. So we are very sad to have lost them, and we would like to close this meeting in their memory. Without further ado, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. With our deepest condolences to the families. Okay, so I'm so sorry. I did want to end on a happy note, even though we did close the meeting in memory of two of our wonderful community members. But today is our council to the town, Christy Tomadano's birthday. So we wanted to wish her a very, very happy birthday, as well as our Budget Director and Human Resources Chief Maddie Zahach's birthday was yesterday, which is why we had the day off, in case you didn't know. Please remember to wish them a happy day, and a big shout out to Maddie and Christy's parents for bringing these extraordinary young women into the world. We couldn't be luckier to have the two of them working for the town. Have a great week, everyone, and we will see you next week at our town hall. Thank you.
Thank you.